The coin market cap summarizes all of the information covered in this video. For future XRP news and other cryptocurrency news in general, don't forget to like and subscribe, Pepo Coin channel. Come on, look at this. The first significant clue that the SEC may shortly abandon the Ripple litigation. A noteworthy sign that the lawsuit Ripple has been pursuing against the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission for the last 4 years may soon be settled has been discovered by the XRP community. This newly found confidence emerged at the same time that the SEC recently said that it is ready to consider XRP exchange-traded funds, or ETFs. The Ripple lawsuit is no longer relevant according to pundits. The Ripple SEC case is becoming less significant under the current leadership. For context, the lawsuit against Ripple was first dropped in August 2024 after Judge Analisa Torres's final decision, which included fines for violations committed by Ripple. However, the issue was revived a few months later when the SEC sent out a notice of appeal. Numerous things have happened since then, such as the SEC filing the opening brief earlier this year. In the lawsuit, Ripple has until April to submit its cross-appeal brief, and the business is currently getting ready to submit it. It should be noted that Gary Gensler, the former chair of the SEC, has been acting as the organization's interim leader since his resignation in January. Ueda has been in charge of a number of pro-crypto developments in his brief tenure in office that the previous administration had failed to notice. Among these accomplishments is the creation of a crypto task force, an intentional attempt to develop precise guidelines for crypto laws. Recent events suggest that the SEC may decide to close the Ripple lawsuit. The SEC's approval of Grayscale's proposal for an exchange-traded fund ETF based on XRP is one recent development that has a more direct effect on XRP. The New York Stock Exchange, NYSE, filed an application to list Grayscale's XRP exchange-traded fund ETF on Thursday, and the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, acknowledged it. This is the first action that has been taken in the approval process. This identification is significant since it means that the SEC can now consider an XRP ETF instead of rejecting it outright. The SEC's prior position on Solana, when it declared that it would not accept applications for Solana spot ETFs, contrasts with this action. The SEC is now going to review the application, a process that might take up to 240 days to finish. According to James Seifert, a Bloomberg analyst, the Securities and Exchange Commission's prior leadership would have turned down the XRP ETF proposal. He pointed out that as recently as December, the government had denied Solana a comparable registration. Additionally, he stated that this measure somewhat improves the ETF's prior favorable acceptance expectations. Essentially, this is a prime example of the changing environment that the current SEC leadership has created. Nate Giorazzi, a co-founder of the ETF Institute, said at the same time that the recognition might be a noteworthy statement on the ongoing investigation into Ripple by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. In a later blog post, Giorazzi expressed her surprise that more people aren't talking about the SEC's recognition of the SRP-TF file. Considering the ongoing legal battle with Ripple, this is especially unexpected. Although the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, had the option to reject the filing, he chose to accept it. This is what Giorazzi said about it. It conveys a huge message, in my opinion, on the course that might result in the Ripple lawsuit being settled. Specifically, the notion that the SEC's new leadership would soon decide to drop the Ripple case has been gaining traction in the community, and the latest development has only strengthened it. When the regulator decided to halt the action against Binance, critics first took inspiration from this decision. They argue that the Ripple case may be subject to a similar action. Stuart Alderati, the chief legal officer of Ripple, has already forecast that the appeal under consideration will be withdrawn by the SEC's new leadership. However, many people think that in order to start the process, a substantive chairperson would be needed. The Senate is now considering Paul Atkins' nomination to be the Securities and Exchange Commission's chair. The SEC has recognized Grayscale's application for an XRP exchange-traded fund, which represents a change in the agency's regulatory stance. The clearance procedure might take up to 240 days, and more XRP ETF filings are expected to be submitted soon. This move by the SEC suggests that the lawsuit against Ripple is no longer a major barrier to XRP's growth. The 19B4 application that NYSE ARCA filed for Grayscale's XRP exchange-traded fund has finally been acknowledged by the SEC. The approval process begins with this stage, which is encouraging for any further actions that might be made. In response to the SEC's decision, the Commission has stated that, rather than dismissing the application outright, it is willing to review it. This is a big change from the way that Solana ETFs were handled in the past, which was to ignore them completely and never even bring them up. Grayscale's XRP ETF will now be investigated by the SEC to see if it meets the necessary regulations. The final decision for XRP X-traded fund applications is made 240 days after the initial posting date and chooses whether to accept them or not. The public will soon have access to the information request, according to Fox Business journalist Eleanor Terrett. She added that similar applications from Bitwise and Canary, among other issuers, may be chosen for recognition. Prominent exchanges including CBOE and NASDAQ have filed filings for exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, based on XRP. The Securities and Exchange Commission has 15 days from the date of receipt to acknowledge these filings. Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, expressed his satisfaction with the SEC's recognition of Grayscale's application. He had predicted the introduction of an exchange-traded fund ETF for XRP, notwithstanding the uncertainty surrounding regulatory requirements. Many individuals ignored his estimate because of the ongoing legal issues around XRP money. Due to the SEC's lawsuit against Ripple, there were challenges in approving ETFs linked to XRP. Many investors doubted that legal concerns would prevent positive outcomes from emerging. The Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, recently acknowledged that the legal issues surrounding the Ripple case are no longer significant obstacles. Impact on the lawsuit that Ripple filed. According to Nate Gerasi, president of ETF Store, the SEC's ruling was one of the pivotal points in the Ripple case. Litigation used to be a major barrier for XRP in the traditional financial industry.